Right, it's been talked about a bit, but 3 out of 4 points at home. Now you go on the road for a couple more games, and the hope is to replicate that success again on the road. These 2 games coming up.
Well, I look at it as opportunity, and for me, the road is all about mentality. What you're doing without the puck is probably the most important thing for me. So the way we've had success at home, I feel like as a team, we've been committed to making sure we're on top of people and being a harder team to play against. On the road, sometimes we've forced it a little bit too much. I don't find like we're far off. A lot of those games that we played on the road have been close. We just have to find a way to make sure that next game in Dallas is our most important game. And it's one that our guys look forward to, and they all commit to playing the way we need to play to be a very good team.
You mentioned yesterday, Ryan, you want your PKers to be more aggressive. Like, what does that look like on this? When a penalty kill is on, they have an idea as to where the puck is going next. So they arrive there on time. That's a big part of it. So for me, a lot of that means they're working. And they're working well as a unit of 4 on the ice, or 5 if you want to put your goaltender in there. And I feel with our guys at times, we're a little late. We don't move as quick as we need to side, and those are all things that are always within a player's control. So that's why I feel like it's fixable. It's a challenge to personnel. It's a challenge to coaches. We have to make it better, and I think it falls on all of us to make sure we're committed to doing that.
See, the fixes are different, but like it wasn't all that long ago that we were asking about the power play not producing, and now it seems like they're scoring every game. Is fixing things with the penalty kills similar in terms of whether it's mentality or focusing on certain areas?
Yeah, your special teams, like you talk a lot about them as the difference between winning and losing, and you're totally right. You're going to go through stretches where it's leaky and it's giving things up. The key thing is to kind of snuff it out when it's happening and find a way as a team to dig into a game and get the job done, because that's when the building starts. Our power play went through it earlier in the year where all the topic of conversation was on the power play. Well, it's a news thing now that power play is pretty good and the penalty kill's not, so we're talking about the penalty kill. So in my opinion, it's going to get better. It's just making sure you're committed to doing things the proper way and putting the necessary preparation in to make sure that you're set and ready to go.
Ryan, with Jacob and Walker, you talked a lot about things they need to do to be effective in the NHL. Have you felt in the 2 games they've played that they have kind of played to the identity they need to be at?
I have, and if I talk about Walker first, last night off the forecheck was probably one of our better forecheck nights, and we generated some chances off of it. So that's one of the stats that we take and keep. So it gives us a good idea as to if we're skating and we're doing what we need to do as a group of forwards. And Walker was in on 3 of those chances. So when that's the case, I know he's using his speed the right way. So that is what we want to see out of him for sure. And in Pelch's situation, a little bit different in regards to the length that he can play at, but the quickness that he has to get himself to and from places is what matters to me. So if he's in his own zone, his detail is good because he's a smart player. He can get from a dot line to the boards quickly before a defenseman to win a battle. That's the type of stuff that we need out of him, where a defenseman looks up the ice to make a breakout pass and Peltz has used his quickness to be stick on puck and in his face. That's when I think he's a really good player for us, and I have seen that out of him in these 2 games.
Is that stat you're talking about just like a kind of forced turn? Like, is that what you're tracking, is who's responsible for forcing this guy to cough up the puck?
Yeah, a lot of times as a line, and are we getting a chance off it? So number 1, are we stalling the puck up? Like, is the defensive team able to break it out on us? Or are we getting it stalled in an area where we can fight for it? Number 2 is, if we're doing that, are we getting a scoring chance off of it? So it's something that we put a lot of work into as a coaching staff over the summer and throughout the early portion of the season. So I think it gives us a good indicator if our team is skating, that's for sure.
Out of curiosity, what individual typically leads the charts in that?
Well, there hasn't been anyone like we have seen lately with Walker with 3 in a game. Like, you don't get a ton of chances off of it. You stall a lot of pucks off of it. So the chances is a good thing, because that to me is a connection between everybody on the ice. So one guy may get in there. Walker I use as an example quickly to create the stall or create the loose puck, but then it's about 4 other guys on the ice making sure they're understanding what to do with the puck next.
Jonathan played more than 25 last night, most he's ever played. Like, when you're when you're behind the bench, what goes into playing a forward that much, and like what signs are you seeing that you know that he's feeling it?
The first period for me, the way they start the game, like I thought he had a good first period. The puck was sort of following him around a little bit last night, and whether it's chances to shoot for him or he was making plays, I felt like he was a dangerous player for us last night, and the 4-on-4 goal is a good example of it. That wasn't a goal that you saw the skill set per se, but it was the hard work, and that's something that I've seen from him over the course of the year. And when he's feeling like he was, I think, yesterday, it makes it easier for a coach to keep putting him on the ice.
Is he spending more time in the middle of the ice and in front of your opponent's net than he typically has in the past?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that the right way, Wilsey. I mean, power play now wise, that's kind of his position where he's been over the last number of games. So it might feel that way because of that. But I think when you look at a lot of his goals, a lot of them come from around the net when he scores. And that's the way it's been for us this year. So I'm not really quite sure if that's the best answer for you. But I do feel like he has been there a fair bit this year, a little bit because of where we have him on the power play.
Do you feel like Braden's sort of cemented that role on that third line as the one constant, or on that third pairing there?
He knows who he is. We've talked about him the last few days. I think he has a good understanding of what we look for out of him. Now, when you look at the successes and the areas that we want to improve as a team, the penalty kill's one area, so that's a spot that you want him to really grab hold of and make sure that he's the type of player that drives it forward, because that fits his identity as to what he is and what we need out of him. So I think he's done a good job. I've mentioned that before about him. He knows who he is and he knows how he has to play the game.
Ryan, you're a third of the way essentially into the schedule now, and as lots of people pointed out, you don't have a player on pace for 50 points or more. Is that worrisome? Do you look at that as something you can weather with a scoring by committee, or how do you approach it?
Yeah, well, if you score, let's put it this way, if you score 3 goals a night, you should win a game. And I feel like we're doing that, and I do feel like over time when we play the right way and play our game, we're going to score more than 3 goals. You don't have to do it by opening yourself up or taking unnecessary chances that hurt us at the other end, where with the 3 goals on the board 4, you should be winning a game. So there's such a fine line when it comes to that. I really like the scoring by committee because everybody's involved and everybody's a threat. And I do feel like our scoring is going to come. I really do. I think it's just a matter of time because our power play is now starting to click. Our offensive guys are feeling a little bit better about what they're doing with the puck now. And I feel like it's a matter of time before we start seeing some games where we're putting more than 3 on the board.
What have you seen from Jake B in the last few games?
A player that, hard situation for Jake and the other guys when they're not necessarily in the lineup regularly, because when you're a regular or in there all the time, you feel good about your game, you know where you're going, and sometimes when you're unsure if I don't have a great game tonight, it might be coming out. It's a challenge for a player, but I think he's moved the puck well over the last little bit. I've liked the way he's played with his gaps. That's, to me, one of his strengths, where he's not an easy guy to play against because of how tight he plays to the forwards. And those are the things that we look for out of him on a daily basis.
Ryan, you've been through the World Junior process. I'm curious for a kid like Zane Perek, goes from earlier this week thinking, oh, geez, I'm not going to have a chance. Now he's going to camp with Team Canada. What can that mean for him as he kind of continues his development?
It's such a cool program, I would say that. And for him to have a chance to be there, number one, I think it's an honor to be able to represent your country, even if it is just for the camp to start with. But number two, I would like to see him go there on a mission. Like, initially you weren't there. So you can prove some people wrong, and I'd like to see him do that. And the one thing that in those short-term events that you always look for is someone that you know that is on the ice that's going to be a difference maker for you both ways. So it's a real good challenge for him to show them that he can play both sides of the puck.